Yeah, ladies, however you're comfortable in the church space. Fantastic. Dr. D? All right. Okay, so let me see here. Who's got a mic? Dr. J's got a mic. Here. It's good to see each of you. Welcome, welcome. I'd like to ask you to begin, if you don't mind, if you could just introduce yourself to the audience and a little of your background, please.
I'm Dr. Monica Duran, originally from Cuba, Havana, Cuba. I've been, came to the United States in my early 20s, and after I finished medical school, and I've been here ever since. I did a residency program at SIU, so Southern Illinois University, in family medicine, and I've been a family practitioner ever since. And I'm very, very proud to be here today and enjoying these wonderful group of people.
Doctor down in Bloomington, and especially in obesity medicine, and teach at Dining School of Medicine and have a private practice there in Bloomington.
And Julie Jarbo, this is still on, from Kentucky, practice in Virginia, and spent time between Virginia and Kentucky. Got into veterinary medicine when I was 11, so really not much else I can do in my life with this. And just very proud to be a part of this is kind of a movement, I think. And very proud to be on the floor of it. And I think I told Stephen at one point in time, I've not been more excited about one thing, I think, since I got my letter of acceptance at the veterinary school. So it's really recharged my interest.
I'm Gary Gettelfinger. I'm from Bloomington, Indiana, and been practicing anesthesiology and pain medicine for 25 years there. I went to Indiana University for everything for 12 years, and I always had fun with that because some of my friends would say, well, it only took me 7 years to get through everything. So, Hoosier through and through, and feel like the good Lord, along with Matt Andrew, dropped this into my lap at a time I really needed it in my practice. Because some amazing things, hopefully I get to share just a little bit of here later, but glad to see all you guys in the room on a beautiful day outside.
I'm Dolores Estrada Garcia. I'm originally from the Philippines. I'm a medical oncologist, hematologist. I finished my internal medicine and hematology oncology fellowship in New York. And I practiced medical oncology and hematology for 20 years, but for the past few months, I took what we call sabbatical because I wanted to spend more time with my children, and then I plan to go back probably later part of this year. It's actually an honor for me to be invited to be, with you and, share whatever, some information that could be, that could help anybody. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you to everybody here, especially our panel. Stephen and I talked about this, and he said, well, we got all these doctors. I said, well, let's put them together and let's ask them some questions. So thank you all of you for being here.
Awesome. All right. So my first question today is for you, Dr. Gettelfinger. So everybody wants to know, right? Obviously, the opioid crisis is completely and totally out of hand here in the United States, and this is right up your wheelhouse. Give us a little bit of an understanding of the impact that you've seen Ultracell have, and really in your own practice, and with the people that you see and that you care for.
Probably one of the most amazing ones, the first one that I had, and I've had a number, which is really cool, was a kid that had been beat up on a motorcycle with a car. They don't mix too well together. And he had rods and screws in his back, and this is for the ambassadors in the room too, as far as what, how you dose this stuff. So I put him on the Ultracell. He was on fentanyl patches, he was on Oxycontin, you name it. And young guy, 2 kids, wife's a pharmacist. And I put him on the Ultracell, and he started taking full droppers of it. Didn't listen to me. That's not the way I recommend it right off. And fortunately, in Bloomington, which is a very safe city, I can give my cell phone pretty much to everybody, and everybody that gets a bottle of CBD, they get my cell phone. because I want to know. I said, look, I want to know the goods and the bads. Well, he texted me about a week later and he said, this stuff's not working. I said, how do you take it? He said, I'm taking a full dropper 3 times a day. I said, that's not the way I told you to take it. Back off, go a half dropper 2 to 3 times a day. So he did that. He comes in for his appointment 2 weeks later and he's off all his narcotics. So I had to sit him down. Because I'm being educated daily with this, which is very exciting. And I said, okay, what is going on? Is your pain totally gone? And he said, no, doc, my pain's not totally gone, but my anxiety is. And my anxiety around my patches and my pills and my soma and my sleeping pills, and also the junk that you tried. He said, I don't have that anxiety about taking the pills. I don't have the anxiety of the pain. And this is working awesome. It was really weird because I've been doing this for 30 years, and what do? When you have somebody on narcotics, you know you're going to see them the rest of your life, and you're at the end of the meeting, he got up, gave me a hug, I said, I guess I'll see you. it was not like me just making another appointment. I said, well, come in and get your CBD, and oh, yeah, by the way, your wife and you need to get in this business. I think you have a lot to share, so that hasn't happened, but we'll see, we're still working on it.
Thank you, Garrett. All right. And Dr. Duran, the same question for you. A little bit of what have you seen in your practice with your patients and the experiences that, if you don't mind just asking, what have you seen there in Illinois in your own practice?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I do have a traditional family practice that I see patients on a regular basis. And one of the things that I struggle every day when I come to the office is a stack of prescriptions that I have to sign for me or for my partner's patients that are 90% of them are narcotics. And every time I sign them, I feel like this is not the best. This is not, we're not doing the best for them. But somehow they got into that system that is maybe not started by me, maybe started by another physician years prior, but it's so hard to break. It's so hard, they fight for it. So, there's no win. If you give it to them, you're not doing good. And if you don't give it to them, they get mad at you. So it's a difficult position. So what I'm seeing is I've been educating patients daily basis about the use of these wonderful supplements that we have on hands now, and with the idea of reducing their narcotic, obtaining a functional level of pain management that they can be productive, they can be sufficient in society, they can go back to their work, back to their life, have fun with their kids or family, or whatever they're doing, have their hobbies back, and being able to, to take something that is not going to ruin their life in their long run, as most of these pain medicine pain medications. So that's one thing that I've been doing. Also, I've been encouraging, and we talk about a little bit about metabolic control. My patients with diabetes, especially the type 2 diabetics, with or without insulin, we've seen that it helps with the insulin resistance. They are lowering some of these patients have taken several oral anti-hypoglycemians, or even a combination of an oral with an insulin. So I've been telling them to take the product and keep everything else the same, their diet, whatever they're doing, and keep their blood sugars on track. And what I've seen is that some of them have been off insulin, some of them have been even reducing the amount of oral hypoglycemians, and overall feeling better and losing weight. Another thing I do is I manage in Decatur, Illinois, a weight loss program. It's called Physicians Choice Wellness, and we have this product on the shelf as a supplement for all the patients. It's not mandatory to be part of the program, but it's highly encouraged because of the appetite suppression that we see, and also some of these patients are diabetic. Some of these patients have, all the comorbidities that can be completely improved upon, using this medication. Vasodilator effect. People that are taking lowering their blood pressure with medications is another great effect. So I got into this because of my own mother. She has a lot of issues, and she was my first patient. And my mom, who has one kidney, I was able to get her off the blood pressure medication after 20 years, and I was very worried about her only kidney suffering, the effect of a long-term hypertensive medicine. So again, I see these every day, people getting better. And one comment that I hear from a lot of patients is, I just feel good, I just feel better. I feel happy, I feel like I can do things again. We talk about pain control, we talk about, but also when you hear somebody saying, I don't know, I just feel better, it's a great, you feel like you've done something good to them. So that has been my great experience.
Thank you for sharing. Next question is for Dr. Estrada. So I know that this has been something you've really dove into. I know you just returned from an endocannabinoid conference. Give us your impressions. What have you learned, and what's got you excited about the potential possibilities of this supplement?
I just attended the first endocannabinoid in medicine, which is actually for healthcare professionals. So there are about I think 200, 250, and they're predominantly physicians, nurses, pharmacists, as well as people from manufacturing company. So the speakers are actually from well-known universities or academic centers like University of California in San Francisco or Columbia University. They discuss the endocannabinoid system more in detail. But the truth is, Dr. Andre is really doing a fantastic job. And he makes it a lot easier for everybody to what the endocannabinoid system is. I mean, Dr. Andre and Dr. De Silva. Because there, it's somewhat more complex, but of course, if you want to learn more what it is, that's one thing that seminar actually gives more in detail. But majority of what I've learned, I've actually learned already from here. And from, reading through the computer. Just like what Dr. De Silva said, if you want to learn something, you Google it, because there's a lot of good, studies that are in the computer system. But one thing that they've agreed is, one, all of the physicians believe that, just like all we know, is that CBD is non-psychotropic compared with THC. And they have studies about multiple sclerosis, about seizures, especially for intractable seizures for kids. And they will actually try to get FDA approval for CBD for intractable seizures. So if that will come, there's a possibility that insurance may cover CBD. But one thing is that a lot of the studies that they've discussed is based on the old CBD that we have in the market, which means that it's not water soluble, it's not highly bioavailable, just like what Ultracell has. So the results are somewhat, they're good, but not very good, just like what I typically see for patients that I've been giving our own Ultracell. And they've discussed some potential possible side effects, but see, those are for patients who have been taking a lot of medications combining CBD with it. So, and it's not like the kind of Ultracell that we have. Some of those CBDs that they have used are actually extract, or they're actually synthetic. So, you have to read in between lines. You cannot interpret them and compare it with what we have, because the Ultracell that we have is, I think from my point of view, is significantly superior. In fact, I approached them and told them that we have this type of CBD. It's a full spectrum, water soluble, highly bioavailable. And they said, see, if you would want to do clinical trials and will be sponsored by the company, they'll do it. That's their answer. Now, I'm a medical oncologist, and one of the speakers there is actually Dr. Al Brown, who is from UCSF, and he's a medical oncologist. So I'm very interested, because I was doing readings through the computer about, CBD effect in cancer. Yes, it's true, as mentioned by Dr. Dr. Andrea, I my dementia, I apologize. That's what I usually tell my children Saturday, I forget something. That there are preclinical information that CBD has anti-cancer effect. And there are some NCI studies that they did. The problem why medical oncologists will not use it yet, and I think in the future they will, and I'm so sorry, Dr. De Silva, is this because for us medical oncologists, they will always ask for what we call, it's a phase 3 or at least a phase 2 or phase 3 clinical trial. Wherein what we have at CBD is compared to what we call standard of care right now. But if you ask me if I'm treating somebody else who has a far advanced cancer, not responding to the current chemotherapy or whatever toxic, chemotherapy or one of the new antibiotics that we have, and they're willing to try it, I think I probably will. I just have to explain it to them, what it is and what are their expectations. Because we live in America. It's part of, unfortunately, what we call defensive medicine, but see, we should not be afraid of using nutritional things like this that has some potential significant benefits. And if you go through the computer, there are actually reported, several reported benefits by patients from cancer. So I think in the future it will come, that it will be used. Thank you.
Dr. Jarbo, give us your impressions on what you feel the potential of this supplement has to do just inside of the world of, just for pets in general. What do you see just the possibilities being as we move forward?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest possibilities is just reducing anxiety, promoting the anti-pain mediators, promoting pro-anti-inflammatory mediators in the body, and us getting away from lessening our use of non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, of corticosteroids, of these harsher medications that are the antidepressant medications, because all of these things are metabolized heavily by our liver, heavily by the kidneys. They have to add to frequent blood work monitoring. So you already have an animal that is impaired health, stressed, anxious. Let's get them back in the car for blood work 2 weeks later. Let's get them back in the car 3 or 4 months later for blood work and urinalysis to monitor for potential complications from the drugs that you're giving. It's the same story. We sound like we're, on repeat. We're on this loop that we keep talking about up here on the panel about, one drug, begins causing a side effect, or we need another drug to counter that side effect, and so on and so on. So, and from my standpoint, again, just to reiterate, getting away. There are drugs I can't not use. I mean, they have a benefit in place. This isn't, a treatment or a cure, but it's an adjuvant to help our body help itself. And again, just going back to, doesn't that make the most sense in someone saying the hemp plant was God's multivitamin? I wrote that down. That's right. That's right. It really is the truth. It has the vitamins and amino acids. It has the terpenes and the flavonoids to help us, and the CBD components. So it has what our body needs. Every system, as we talked about before, is affected directly or indirectly by the endocannabinoid system. We have this in our plant. If our body is deficient, or if our body has too much of it, again, going back to that analogy, that it's like turning up the volume on your stereo system and turning it down. Like, we need a little more, we turn it up. If we don't like the sound of those drums on that one, we turn it back down. Our body is doing that at the cellular level naturally. This substance helps us, helps our body do that. So I think from that standpoint, getting away or lessening my use of these traditional anti-pain medications for steroids and inflammatories, and then making the overall experience in the veterinary clinic and in the home a better place between these little creatures' ears. There's a lot of things that we do. Again, they're sponges. If you all are stressed, they're stressed. And the side effect of this for me, I have to share with you, I told Dr. Andrea, I felt when I first met him, everyone felt like they're being a rock star, because I have about an 8-hour drive from Virginia to Kentucky, and so I listened the back panel all the time. So I feel like he's almost a Rocky Horror Picture Show. I know he's going to start giggling and laughing, and I start laughing before he even says whatever punchline was getting at. So I lost my train of thought there. I had to get that out. But I think that, I'm seeing it on anesthesia recovery. Docs go through a hyper excitement phase right before we're getting ready to extubate them, pull their breathing tube from the anesthesia. Well, what do? We reach for another drug to give intravenously to stop that effect. Well, then we're sitting there watching, monitoring your heart rate, and all those things are going down, and we're getting nervous. So what do? We give a reversal agent. It's just a vicious cycle. So I started again getting owner's permission. Can I try this? Can I rub this on their mucous membranes before we extubate them? And I tell you, I haven't given dexdomitor in probably 4 months.
Dr. Andrew, share with us a little bit of what you feel the potential of this product, this technology, the discovery of the ECS. Give us an idea of what you believe the potential for possibilities of this on a go-forward basis.
The potential for this is very unlimited. Again, I think we're seeing no less than a transfer of both wealth and power and influence from pharma a little bit. The information about the drugs that we have, while great, it's getting harder and harder to not think that there may be better alternatives. And again, this in essence was a pharmaceutical. It was, and before we even had the term pharmaceutical, this was part of our health. And it was kept from us. And so we're restoring that, but it's done so in a fashion that has kept it happily out of Big Pharma's hands and put directly into ours. Now again, I wouldn't be up here talking about this at all if it weren't for the fact that stuff is so darn safe. It's not perfect. You do have to watch certain drug interactions. You do have to watch if your blood pressure is low, because it'll lower your blood pressure. But in general, compared to the other stuff I use, it's night and day different. And that wide therapeutic index, that ability to use this and feel like you can use it safely for a broad range of reasons is going to let people try it. And then, because the ECS is so prevalent in the body, then all these things that did not anticipate are going to start getting better. I've got 30 people I could sit here and name, it won't let me, but I could, who I gave this to for something else, knee pain, back pain, sleep. And they came back in and I'm writing refills, and I said, oh, you need your Miralax. He said, I haven't needed during that, that's over the counter now, but I haven't needed my irritable bowel medicine. I said, what? They said, my IBS has gone away. And I hear that over and over. I've taken people who said they no longer needed their Ambien, and I gave this to them because they had Crohn's disease. There are so many things that the ECS controls that it is as yet we don't have a list of possible things. But the fact that it's safe means you could potentially explore it for that. And one of the things I want to point out is, just as Gary said, I don't know if y'all caught that or not, but he had a patient drop the dose and it worked better. That sounds kind of counterintuitive, but all of these lipids, and that's what really CBD is, it's a lipid, your anandamide is a lipid. All of these things can have what we call biphasic effects. They do one thing at a small dose, they can do another thing at a big dose. So you can, I'll use the word experiment, try different doses and you can potentially see different responses. And that's okay to do because it's safe. If it wasn't safe, I don't want you going home and doing that with the Zocor they put you on or something else. But the fact that this is safe means that you can adjust your dose, titrate yourself, and you're not going to cost more. So that safety and the fact that the ECS is part of your control modulation, again, you have trillions of tiny thermostats all over the body that you're modulating with CBD. The potential for what things can get better is truly unlimited. I don't have a way to explain how big this is.
Thank you for sharing. Gary, next question for you. You have, I know, a number of colleagues that are in the room with you today. And Roger, where's Roger Bailey at, by the way, Roger? Pop me in. Let's give Roger Bailey a round of applause. Incredible. Stand up, Roger. Dr. Bailey is, just like Dr. Gettelfinger, is an anesthesiologist, pain medicine doctor in Terre Haute. He was actually on the evening news in Terre Haute 2 weeks ago with our products, spreading the word to that part of Indiana. Thank you, Dr. Bailey. Gary, what are you seeing with your colleagues, right? I mean, give us an impression of what you're seeing, the light bulb moments, if you will, that are happening with the fellow colleagues of yours.
Not much. If a beautiful woman like Maddie couldn't get Matt Andrew to do it, forget it. No, we're being kind of stupid. This is, for everybody in the room that wants to talk to people, I would impress upon you to talk to your family, talk to your neighbor, talk to the little lady down the street. Because those are the people that are showing up in my office with tears in their eyes. I say one thing CBD does too, it produces tears. I made cakes and cookies for my grandchildren, first time in 5 years. One little lady came up, she says, I can't take this, my church won't let me. I said, where's your church? We're gonna come talk to them. Because it really, but she can take some Oxycontin and oxycodone and and I want to talk to this church. And I will, okay? The lady behind her came up and said, I'm a Christian, I go to church, I take it. And I'm just going to tell you, Doc, this make my hair stand up. She said, I would have killed myself had it not been for I was a Christian and I took ultrasound. Now that's pretty darn cool. We don't hear that in practice every day. That happened this week. And I think that was placed for me to tell you guys if that little lady didn't make it to my office, she might be one of your guys' neighbors. And for you guys to, and I commend everybody in the room. We have captive audiences. You know, this dovetails perfectly with my practice. I can talk to anybody all day long about CBD, and I will. And I tell my ambassadors that I've sponsored, I'll come to your city, I'll help you. If there's one person there, I don't care. Because you never know when that one person is going to hit huge. You don't know if the little lady next door has got a granddaughter that's going to blow this thing apart and touch all kinds of people. And they are not physicians. They don't need to. You don't need to be physicians. In fact, the workforce in this room of who are here and what you guys are hearing and what you guys can do is huge compared to what we can really do. So I would encourage you to don't give up ever. I have some guys, I'm not doing that anymore. Are you kidding me? Why? This is awesome. You're in a perfect storm. The most conservative state in the union, Indiana, says hemp can be used. Which we're still educating, and to Dr. Thompson. Dr. Thompson's question.
Hey, you hang around people like you become like those you hang out with.
Talk to your doctor if they're listening, forget them if they won't. Because they're still hung up on the DEA situation.
Did you hear that, by the way? Talk to your doctor if they'll listen, don't if they won't. Is that what you said? That's fantastic.
Forget them. No, the point is like Matt said, as physicians, we'll either act like we know a lot, or we'll just shut up and not say anything. But they do the same thing to us. How do you get that? What are you doing? What's the dosage? It freaks them out when I tell them I don't know what the dosage is. I'm from Southern Indiana, redneck town. Matt's a little more polished. He says experiment with it. I say play with it. because all my other drugs, I can't say that. I can't tell you to go play with your Oxycontin, you'll die. I can't tell you to go play with your Ambien, go play with your Soma. Oh, take 5 Ambien, it'll be fine for you. No, you can't do that. You can take a full dropper, and some people need more than a full drop, but just play with it, and don't worry about it, and come back and tell me what's going on. And that's why they got my number. I want to hear it. Because it's folks like you out there that really it is a little more difficult than it is for us, but you guys are the driving force. This room, you guys all go out and talk to one more person. We've doubled the room, now we need a bigger room. It's huge. It's huge, and it's kept me in medicine when I was about ready to say adios, because it's just all the craziness that's going on. So, I appreciate it.
Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Silva, any closing comments?
I think the message that I'm hearing is, and I was actually going to ask you about the dosage. I was at a conference, and the consensus of the panel was start low and go slow. Okay, and I think that's something that we all need to remember. Is start low and go slow. And we put directions on bottles because that's what God told us to do. Because we need directions, but we have to start somewhere. So the perfect way to say that is, and even with the animals, is to start off at a low dose. All right. If you've got a lot of pain, don't drink the bottle. You may not need the bottle, as Dr. Andrews said. Start off at a lower dose, and then dose it accordingly and go accordingly. The other thing is, and I have to say this to all of you, folks, there is a role for pharmaceuticals, all right? There is. You come in to see me and you've got a fever of 102 and you're coughing and you've got an infiltrate of your chest x-ray and your white blood cell count is elevated. I'm not going to send you on an ultrasound.
Right.
Okay? I'm going to put you in the hospital, I'm going to give you an IV antibiotic. There is a role. The problem I have with this is that the abuse of the medications, right? Whenever I start medicine, what I tell my patients is, I have a goal as to when I'm going to take you off of it. So if you're starting on something, my goal is to get you off it because it's a temporary fix. Keep in mind that this is a botanical, this is a plant. This is a plant. And I understand that there are certain religious and other aspects to this. People have to understand what this is all about. So, as just a wind up, as a wrap up, everybody, I mean, what everybody said in here is just amazing. And you're going to see, as we get more and more information, that you're going to have more and more applications and implications with regard to this product. So keep up the good work, and once again, thank you, and God bless.